Greetings, college football fans. It's yours truly, Brandon Rutherman, host of the upcoming college football kickoff show that will be premiering on the opening weekend of the 2024 college football season. That would be August the 24th on Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram. For now, though, we are about to do a little Q&A on all things college football in a 10-week series called 10 Qs, where basically you ask the questions and I get to answer them as only I can. And they have to be done in a short answer. And I say that with tongue firmly planted in cheek because when I start, I may never stop, for one. And number two, a lot of what I'll be answering in the next 10 weeks, courtesy of the very questions that you're asking, will be a little more detailed in an upcoming documentary series called Brando's College Football that chronicles the games, the players, the teams, basically anything and everything that I had ever watched over the last 4 decades. Probably even a little bit more than that. And the memory bank is loaded and ready to be cashed in for all of you to enjoy. So, right now, the Q&A is about to begin here, and we're starting things with a two-parter. And I want to, first of all, I want to acknowledge the fine folks at the College Football Commission who submitted half of the questions, and 2 of them are going to get done right here, right now. And they're very simple in nature, but again, they'll be explained in a lot more detail in Brando's College Football. But for now, here comes the short answer version. The questions they asked me: favorite team and allegiances. Well, that's a very good two-parter to start this with. Well, the best way I can describe the favorite team process, number one, is that if you had asked me that basically for the last 15, 20 years, it would have been a 1A and a 1B between Oregon and Alabama. Alabama, is a good many of you who don't know, and those who are close to me that do know, was first introduced to me by my late grandfather. And it's because of that that I'll always have a soft spot for the Tide. Oregon, meanwhile, there will be a more thorough explanation on the way. But when it comes down to the 2 teams, there's one major difference that now has broken up the 1A, 1B concept, and that is current Alabama head coach Kalen DeBoer. It was Kalen DeBoer's Washington Huskies teams that beat the Oregon Ducks the last 3 times they played them. So now, should there ever be an Oregon-Alabama game, which you know the gods continue to tease me with time and again, let's cross that bridge when we get to it. For now, though, it is Oregon as my number 1. Alabama is my number 2. Now, as far as allegiances go, along with Oregon and Alabama, there are other schools that I love for various reasons. Most of them involve schools that you just want to root for, even though you know deep down they can't beat the big teams. There was a time where Northwestern was in my top 4, and that was largely in part of former head coach Pat Fitzgerald having put the football program on the map, only for hazing allegations to ultimately end his tenure, which was basically like a punch in the gut as a fan of Northwestern. But once he left and David Braun took over, you could not have scripted the script that Northwestern went to work with. And the end result was the most unthinkable, the most improbable, the most incredible turnaround that I had ever seen. Going from winning only one game the previous year to 7 wins and a Las Vegas Bowl victory over Utah. And now David Braun has the job full time. So, yes, there's Northwestern. There's also Rutgers. Really, you had to, if it wasn't for the hazing thing, Rutgers would have been that um, number 4. And I should point out the number 3 is West Virginia. West Virginia would be my 3rd. And that's largely in part because my brother went to school there. Plus, we've seen a lot of great players and a lot of great teams down through the years. We've had moments of glory and suffered through the losses, the big game losses, the bowl wins, coaching changes, all of it. We've been through it all. West Virginia, Northwestern, and I was getting ready to mention Rutgers. Rutgers is now the number 4 team, and it's a strange place to be, being Rutgers, but this last year, it just kind of fell into my lap, and it started with of all things, an Instagram clip where players were asked to rate their roommates. And one of them had me dying. I wish I could remember the names right off the top of my head, but there was one who rated, I don't remember the rating, but I just remember him talking about his roommate, always talking about stuff that hurts him. And he finished it up by saying, "I cracked my finger on a crab leg." And I about fell out of my chair when I heard that. So I already knew they were a loose bunch, but under Greg Schiano, it's a nice group of characters, but have character. And I like that in a football team. I also like the fact that there's a lot of guys with some strange names. They got a lineman whose last name is Salami, I do know. There's I want to think it's a linebacker named Robert Longerbeam. And of course, my main man, the running back who led the Big Ten in rushing this past season, Kyle Monangai. And he was fun to watch last year, and definitely was a lot of fun to watch when they beat Miami in the Pinstripe Bowl. Not to mention the fact that we got a player from my hometown, Devon Fuse, who lent a hand on special teams by laying somebody out on a kick return after Rutgers scored the first touchdown of that Pinstripe Bowl. So, heck yeah. Let's see, West Virginia, Northwestern, Rutgers. There's more. Appalachian State. I don't really think I have like a definitive like top 10 or whatever. But Appalachian State plays in a gorgeous stadium with all those trees surrounding it. It's a beautiful setup down there. It's probably the only Sun Belt team I actually like. Boise State. Can't go wrong with a little blue turf. And, of course, I got Boise State here. And, of course, they played Oregon in the Las Vegas Bowl. And I will not talk about that game for a couple of reasons. Number one, Boise State won. And number two, Oregon had a head coach named Willie Taggart, who nobody liked. So, let's see, who else is there? Iowa, the Hawkeyes. Can't put up points on offense, but their defense does more than enough. But, traditionally, they've always been good. And when you least expect it, when Michigan has an off year or an Ohio State has an off year or even Wisconsin has an off year, Iowa sneaks right in there. They get that one great team every so many years, and then it's back to the middle of the pack again. But Iowa, by and large, has been consistently good under Kirk Ferentz, who's been there forever. I mean, really, when you think about it, in my lifetime, this is I mean, forget the fact that they look like the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Steelers, and that's just uniformly speaking, the Steelers have had 3 head coaches since 1969. In my lifetime, Iowa, I believe, has only had 2. Hayden Fry and Kirk Ferentz. It's pretty remarkable. So, yeah, there's Iowa, there's SMU, who won their first conference championship since the early 80s. And I started following SMU a little bit when Tanner Mordecai was the quarterback and they were running, a high-scoring, pass-oriented offense down there. But I thought last year that they were going to take a few steps back when he transferred to Wisconsin. And yet, somehow, some way, SMU got better. And the end result was, I think, their first 10-win season, if I'm not mistaken. Unfortunately, they lost to Boston College in the Fenway Bowl. So things are looking up for the Mustangs. Let's see. Is there anybody else? Have to give an honorable mention to Florida simply because they won't back down, regardless of record, score, or opponent. Every time they play Tom Petty's I Won't Back Down, the late, great Tom Petty's I Won't Back Down, before the start of the fourth quarter, and hearing the throng of fans in Gainesville singing loudly and proudly as one brings tears to my eyes. That sealed it. So I have to give an honorable mention to Florida. Even though it's going to be tough sledding trying to compete with the Alabamas, the Georgias, the Tennessees, probably Oklahoma, Texas, you get the idea. They didn't go to a bowl game last year, so there's no sense in looking back on what they didn't do. It's what they're hoping to do. So, yeah, there's Florida. Who else? Illinois. 2 years ago, Brett Bielema resurrected the program, got them back to their playing respectable football, ended up winning enough games to where they played on New Year's Day. Unfortunately, they ran into Mississippi State, who were playing for their legendary late head coach, Mike Leach. And Illinois took a step back last year, but I'm a Brett Bielema believer. Try saying that 5 times fast. I'd like to think that they're going to be on the way back, but who knows? It's going to be tough in the Big Ten. It's going to be tough everywhere with conference realignment, the expanded playoff, all those good things. But I'm going to talk about it when the season kicks off, August 24th. I think I gave you a short list and some short answers. My apologies if I rambled. Hey, when you love college football as much as I do, and you're consumed by it, that's all you think about. You eat it, you drink it, you sleep it. There is no better time to be a football fan than right now. That much I know is true. So, the first Q&A of 10 Qs is in the books. We'll be back next week for our second installment of 10 Qs on the College Football Kickoff Show. For now, BR signing off, and 10 Q.